It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabelas,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls, and
Badass Slingshots. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. Host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin tonight with Dan DeFaw on a Sunday evening, middle of August.
Yes, sir.
You know, we've been gone. We weren't here last weekend.
We were no, we had a little bit of a busy weekend last weekend.
Yeah, it's been busy. Been a busy couple weeks. Been a busy month.
It was kind of tiring last weekend.
You recovered?
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, kind of looking back at the grand opening. You were back down there again this weekend. I was over in Dundee. You had time to reflect on things. Anything stand out to you?
They need a bigger parking lot still.
Really?
Yeah.
It was that packed on Sunday?
I got
Saturday
there,
when you got there?
Saturday morning I got there, just about 9 o'clock. And they were already parking up on that. You know, we came out that door on the side.
Right.
They were parked up on there already.
Again.
And it's like, I think those were outfitters.
Right.
But the parking lot got full again. And somebody did complain that they should get more parking.
Okay. Well, they got plenty of room around there.
They do right now. And so.
Depending on who owns the land.
Right. Exactly. So, but reflecting back on it, I think that store's going to do really well.
You know, I was down at Dundee this weekend, Saturday, actually yesterday. I was down there. It's Waterfowl Weekend, the Waterfowl Classic.
Oh, yeah.
How'd that go with your store?
You could tell it was Waterfowl Weekend.
You couldn't at ours.
Really?
Oh, I was blown away. I walked in, and getting everything set up, doing my thing, and...
Really?
I kind of said, after about the first hour, one of the outfitters there, I said, isn't this supposed to be Waterfowl Weekend? And they said, yeah, it is. It is Waterfowl Weekend. I go, where is everybody? There was 2, maybe 3 vendors there. Half the vendors didn't show up. Didn't hear people hammering on the goose calls and duck calls like you usually do. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I don't know why.
They were hitting the goose calls inside.
Yeah. We heard them, but nothing like it was about like any other day.
I didn't go over to the area where they were, but we heard them. So it was like,
well, Bay City had their big event 2 weekends ago.
2 weeks ago,
yeah,
right?
up at the Bay City State Rec area. In the Saginaw store, Saginaw Cabela's was over there working the event. I seen on Facebook. So, but yeah, down there, are we getting back? I mean, we talked about this before. Are we getting back to the point where there may be too many outdoor shows?
We had this discussion a little bit. Matter of fact, exactly that. Trying to get the word out to people, but yet you don't want it. It seems that the way that seems to be, there's an event every weekend, right?
Yeah,
because technically this was also the start of Fall Great Outdoor Days,
right?
And it was Waterfowl Weekend, and you wonder if they're always trying to come up with something, and then you're trying to get people into the stores, but I don't think people want to come into the store every weekend.
Well, last weekend wasn't Jurassic last weekend as well?
Jurassic down in Ohio.
Yeah.
Right? So the big shows are starting to kick off too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think you're going to get to a point where it hits and people are just going to say, all right, enough.
Yeah, just wondering.
No, absolutely, because
I was surprised. I remember being down at Cabela's years ago when Michael, was running with us when he was still in high school, and we would go down there for the Waterfowl Classic. That was his thing. He loved, he's a waterfowler. And we'd spend 2 days down there, and it was just wall-to-wall craziness.
Right. I remember going the one year with you, and if I remember right, pretty much in the back aisle from the panorama to, it was just full of vendors, and they were all hitting their calls.
Yeah. I remember one year when they actually had it out on the opposite side where the fishing department used to be.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There's the emergency doors. They had those opened up, and they had tents out there along where the employee parking is at Dundee. And they had all of them out there, the decoys and boats and layout blinds and all that kind of stuff out there. And you'd walk through the tent and then back into the store.
Right.
Yeah,
so
it was so huge. But
so can it get a little... So here's another thing to think of. you've got Waterfowl Classic, and you have to divide that up by 4 stores.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty tough.
Something else was going on this weekend here in Michigan. The race at MIS, the Pure Michigan 400.
Yep, that was going on.
One of the outfitters said, well, if you're going to buy decoys, layout blind, boat, whatever, and you happen to say, okay, we're going to go up to the race in Michigan, we're also going to stop at Cabela's on the way home and pick up stuff. They said they might be coming back today after the race, before the store closes.
Right.
So they were hoping to have a big influx of people coming back into the store today.
But the race isn't going to end till...
It's over.
Well,
it was over at 5:30.
5:30, but the store closes at, what, 7?
Sundays, I'm not sure. 7? Yeah, 7, 8 o'clock, something like that.
7, I think. And
yeah.
It does, if you're lagging in that parking lot, you don't get out quick.
Right, and it's probably, even if there was no traffic, you're talking a good hour and a half drive.
Right, to get over there.
Yeah.
No, I think sometimes we oversaturate the things.
Yeah.
And I think timing is everything. Mm-hmm. The last 2 weekends, like the grand opening weekend, this weekend, was just gorgeous outside.
It was. Yeah, we've had some good weekend weather.
So my thinking is, I'm not thinking waterfowl.
No.
Today I went kayak fishing, right?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I've been thinking about, and I always think about, is deer hunting. Bow season's coming up.
Right.
Got to work on the food plot. Got to shoot my bow. Got to get in shape. Those are the things that I'm kind of actively working on.
Yep.
And kind of ramping up as we get closer. So.
Yeah, and I went. So I don't know. I think we need a cold snap. A cold snap, and people.
I woke up one morning. Was it this week or last week? And I stuck my head outside early in the morning.
A little chilly.
And it was close to 50 degrees.
Yeah, this morning it was like that in Port Huron.
And I was like, whoa, it's we haven't had what I would call a robust summer with hot weather.
I cannot say that we've had a hot summer. We've had a decent summer, 80s, but not really that long stretch of constant 90s.
3 days in the 90s, and they were in June.
Okay, there you
90
go.
And above.
There you go.
Only 3.
So no, totally agree with you there. I think it's hard. It's hard as a marketer. It's hard as a business. And the companies don't want to spread themselves thin either.
Right.
So they might have to concentrate on one thing or another, or, maybe the big thing was up in Bay City. Maybe that was, because everybody seems to be cutting back on their expenditures and getting people out and doing what they need to do. But maybe they're getting more reluctant to do a lot of shows and hit main shows. I'm sure the Woods and Water at Emily City, that's going to be packed. It usually is, barring a monsoon. But usually if you get decent weather, if it's cool, it's even better. But that's usually a packed venue. And then at the end of the September, we're going to have Deer Nation at Cabela's. But, as far as waterfowl's going, we had them in the store. So they're starting to think about it. We've got September 1st coming up for early goose. They were hitting the goose calls.
How you were working archery for PSC this weekend?
Yeah, it was. That was fun.
So how was that?
Oh man,
a lot of bows, a lot of gear,
a lot of kicking the tires.
Okay.
It was kind of funny. Dan, the technician that was working with me in this week, and I said, "There's a lot of tire kickers here." He goes, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "You know what's going to happen?" I said, "Yeah, they'll be here September 30th.
Can I get a bow set up?
Right, and they'll want to use it the next day.
Yep. I need arrows. I need the whole 9 yards. I'm going bow hunting tomorrow.
And there was a gentleman or two that were early. They says, "Hey, I want to get some new stuff put on my bow. I don't mind dropping it off. They're great." People looking at crossbows, looking at bows, wanting to get their children into the, what bow should I use? And I said, well, kids were aplenty looking at archery. Moms and dads getting them involved. One young gentleman, his dad's looking for a crossbow. It was a recurve bow for him that he was looking for, but it needed to be light. And I wasn't on the whole conversation at first because Dan was handling with him, and they were going through left arm. He couldn't really hold it and couldn't hold the weight. And I'm like, okay. I was listening, but I wasn't paying attention. But then I finally listened into it. Found out the reason why is he had a pacemaker put there.
9 years old.
9 years old. And, his dad, he's got one pectoral muscle because the pacemaker was making it bulge out.
Right.
Then he proceeded to tell me that he showed me a scar and he had staples and he didn't want he didn't want anybody to touch it, so he wouldn't use his left arm, so it got pretty weak, and he wouldn't let the doctor touch it. Oh, and by the way, he's on the waiting for a heart transplant.
Wow.
So it was like, oh,
Kind of brings things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, real quick. So, but no, I tell you what, they were looking at crossbows, they were looking at bows. A lot of, I couldn't say one thing in particular. From one guy who was looking for a broadhead wrench to rail lube to crossbows to bows. It was all over. It just
the
wasn't
whole gamut.
It just wasn't one thing that they were going after. Now they did have the doorbusters. They had a Cabela's doorbuster crossbow that some came in and looked and got. 2 people walked out with a new crossbow. They spent a couple hours there looking at them and kind of doing their homework. They we had them shoot them. Dan made sure to have them shoot them and make sure that that's what they wanted to feel, and so it was good. It was good to see the kids really out there and the moms and dads getting them arrows or getting them all set up. One dad wanted to start his boy off with everything new this year. He's got all the old stuff. He's like, okay, so this is the year that he's gonna switch him into the I guess the big gear, right? The real bow, the real arrows. So he was looking at that, and he's going to come back in a week or so. He knew it was going to take a couple hours of time to set it up, and he says, we don't have the time now, but I'll come back with him and bring his release, and we'll set it up.
Get him to shooting.
Yep, and a couple of people asked for parts, which was interesting, but they don't have parts per se at Cabela's, so...
It's not like an auto parts store.
Right, exactly.
You look it up on the computer, go back in the back, grab it off, and put it on.
Yeah, here's your no, not quite like that.
Here's your cam.
Yeah, no, but it was good. Some people thought we had a public range.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gentleman asked, can he bring his his crossbow in to shoot?
Do you think that's because of the way it's set up and people can see inside?
I think so. But then if you just look at it, you think, oh, there's a range there. But if you kind of look down it and then realize it's only 13 yards.
Right.
Like, oh.
Yeah. Well, over there on 75, I-75, the big Bass Pro Store's they've got a range.
They got a range. They got a gun range. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Somebody's probably thinking, hey, it's same size store. If they've got one, they must have one.
Wouldn't take much to put one in there.
Right.
To tell you the truth. It would be kind of nice, actually.
Yeah.
But from what I saw, no, everybody was cruising through and looking for stuff. A lot of people taking in the new store, admiring it. One guy was getting ready to get in trouble, he said. I'm like, oh.
Gonna melt the plastic?
Yeah, probably. Goes, but I got the kids, though.
Yeah. Yeah, you just got to buy them something, too.
Oh, yeah, they were asking, don't worry.
So, well, I wish I could say the same thing over where I was at. It was slow. We had a pretty good rush in the beginning of the day, up till about 11 o'clock noon, and then it was just...
Really? Yeah. What I'd like to see is I'd like to go, especially like this past weekend when it was so nice. I'd like to have gone to the fishing side and kind of see what was flowing through there. I don't know if they had any good deals or nothing like that. I
made a run through ours looking for one thing in particular, and they don't stock it anymore.
Was it busy over there? No fishing?
Not really. No, it wasn't. I walked through, and it didn't take me to get from one side of the fishing department to the other until an outfitter, hey, what can I help you find? See me looking. So
what brings you in today?
Yeah, and it's the thing I was looking for. They no longer have. So
no, that's not good.
No, but
yeah, you know what? I think that's going to be a good store. I think the weather plays a part, and I think people just might be spreading themselves out as to what they attend and who they attend and how.
I'll tell you what. Let's take our first break. Come back. I ran into a couple things yesterday in the store, working with the binoculars that I kind of like to run over with. Just
all right.
Basic 101 stuff for people who don't know.
How about we go over some binoculars, and I'll ask the expert, Mike Adams.
We can do that. All right. We're going to step outside, take our first break, and we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show. And we're
Talking optics.
Talking optics. We'll have a little show and tell here for those of you on the live stream. For those of you on the podcast, you're going to have to look at the live stream.
Right.
But
exactly.
you'll probably get the gist of it here when we're talking. So, but yeah, we're gonna talk just basic optics. I've got my Vortex Viper HD 10x42s, and some people say, what does that all mean?
All right. So I'm looking at these binoculars here.
Mm-hmm.
These are HDs. Mm-hmm. And I see on here, there's a number 10x42.
Yep.
And you're going to explain to me what the first number 10 means.
I get that all the time at the store. People don't understand when they're talking about optics what 10x42 means.
So what does the 10 mean?
The 10 is the magnification of the optics. It's, a lot of people say is, well, it magnifies it 10 times. And actually, in all reality, what we tell them is the number 10, when you look through the glass, is the object that you're looking at appears 10 times closer to your naked eye than what you would see with your naked eye.
So the first number always tells you how...
It's a magnification.
Magnification. How much?
Mm-hmm.
How many times closer?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a 10x42,
mm-hmm.
it's a 10 magnification. If it's a 12...
It'd be 12 times.
And then if it's an 8...
It'd be 8 times. Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
Kind of like a rifle scope. Same thing.
Exactly. What's the significance of that number?
Well, it does play into correlation with the next number in regards to when you're with optics, you want to be able to see. And in order to be able to see, we need brightness. We need the amount of light. We need the maximum amount of light to be transferred to our eye through the optics. Where that comes into play is first light and last light, especially for hunters, deer hunters or big game hunters, or maybe even, somebody out squirrel hunting. I mean, most game is active at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. So when we're trying to see detail and, we're just cracking daylight, it's really important to have optics that transfer the most amount of light possible. The more we magnify, or the more power magnification we put into it, the less light gets transferred through. We lose light.
Okay.
So where we pick that up on the back end, what I call picking up on the back end, is we pick up a bigger size lens, and that's what the second number is. It's measured in millimeters. So it's a 42.
42. That
Yep.
means that's a 42 millimeter
lens.
Yeah.
Most common you got 25 or 28, 30, 32. Sometimes you'll see a 34, maybe a 35. Then it step up into a 42, a 50, a 56. We get into spotting scopes, then we're talking 65, 75, 85, in that range.
So the bigger these are,
Yep, the bigger the front is,
bigger the front, the more light coming in.
the more light it can gather and transfer to your eye.
So then if you're using a 10x42, okay, so explain also what happens if you were to, when you're using a handheld pair of binoculars and you start getting bigger
Oh, very important. Very,
Yes.
very important. Actually, I talked about this with a gentleman this week down at the store. He was looking at either 8x42 or 10x42, but he was looking more towards the more magnification, and he said, maybe even a 12 or a 15 power. And I said, well, the thing about when we start magnifying, I said, every movement gets magnified as well. And I said, the older we get, unfortunately, our hands are not as steady as what they once were. And if you're looking on 12, 15 power, you can see handshake, especially if you're on glass all day long. Not only that, if you're on high-powered glass all day long, if you're out west and you're spotting and stalking, and you're looking through a set of binoculars all day, it tends to fatigue your eyes. It hurts your eyes, and you'll wind up with eye fatigue at the end of the day. So
Right. That's why, there's also, when you ask that question, is are you gonna be holding them by hand, or are you going to have them on a tripod?
Right.
Because that makes a big difference.
Makes
like you
a
said,
huge difference.
You start to get that little bit of shake, and then
it really plays big into what it does to your eyes and does to your head as far as headaches and things like that if you're on them all day.
So would you say a 10x42 is a typical good all-around set of numbers?
Yeah, that's what I use typically is a 10x42. Before I had that particular pair right there, the pair I had before that was 10x42. I got those back in 2008 when I went out to Colorado doing spot and stalk a lot of the time, and it worked pretty well. I wasn't straining to. I mean, obviously, I couldn't see extremely long distances,
right?
But we were hunting a piece of property that wasn't. We weren't hunting mountain from one mountain to the next. We were on a fairly small piece of property for what they call small out there. So yeah, 10x42 for Michigan, for your Midwest. That's a great piece of glass.
What determines? Oh, I'm going to throw my phone around here. What determines this height from here to here?
That I don't know.
Okay, I was going to ask because I know like some of them get you compact binoculars.
Yeah.
And then like these are good for your hands.
Yes. Yeah.
But then I noticed like they get the smaller ones. Then they got the really big ones.
Yeah. Typically you're going to see your smaller ones with your smaller lenses on them. And I know it's probably got to be due to the amount of distance it takes to bring that light in and focus it and get it back to that back lens to get it to your eye.
Okay.
And focus.
I know they got compact ones. They've got bigger ones. Yeah. They got longer ones.
Right.
But there's no significance as to...
Typically your longer ones are going to be your bigger pieces of glass.
Okay.
Yeah. That's probably the correct way to talk about the correlation on the length of the optic.
Talking about spotting scopes, they have two different types. They've got the straight
and the angled.
Yeah. Why the difference?
Personal preference, strictly personal preference on what style you like. The one I've got, do I have it here handy? I don't know. I'll get it in the break.
Is yours straight?
Mine's angled. And the reason I like mine angled, and it's a lot easier to show you, but if I had it on a tripod sitting here, when I'm at the gun range and I'm using it, for sighting down and checking my target, I like to be able to shoot and look over and verify. And when I'm on the gun on the sled, if I'm on a lead sled, and then I just turn my head and stick my right eye on it, and it's angled right to my eye, but it's looking this way.
Right, exactly.
And you can turn that eyepiece to fit whatever level you're sitting at.
And I was thinking about that as you're describing that. Is like if you're out. If you're out west or you're on a big ridge or something like that, and you've got that sitting in front of you, you can just look down instead of having to get behind it.
But a lot of guys like prone though. They like to lay prone on the ground and have it on a tripod, and then lay on their backpack and have it prone. So they want the straight ones. It's strictly personal preference.
Or get one of each.
That'll cost you a little more money.
Okay, so that is actually just a personal preference thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's just personal preference, and I like to have mine angled because I mainly use mine. Well, I have taken and shot some night photography with it through the moon. So I've done that, and
you did a video too.
Yeah, with the angled, it works really well for that. It's just what I like. So yeah.
Excellent.
That's the biggest thing.
One of the best things that Vortex we've all talked about is the quality of glass. Mm-hmm. And I rep for Vortex and that. And what do you see amongst the others that I know Vortex has got the best warranty out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we could have throw these out in the street out there, and somebody will run it over, and we can get them replaced.
Well, no, if you throw them out there in the street, they're not going to replace them.
Well,
if they were to fall out of your vehicle, like you laid them on your tailgate in your truck, and you drove out of camp, and you forgot to close the tailgate, and you forgot to put them in your pack, and they fell off, and they got scratched, broke, somebody run over them, whatever. They would take care of them. They would fix them and replace them. It's 100% lifetime warranty, no questions asked. It's unconditional warranty. It's the only thing they don't cover is malicious destruction and theft.
So what do you think about the new one they came out with that you did a little video on?
The Fury. It's a nice piece of gear for being a first piece out. They did a real nice job with it.
They did a little combo effort here: binoculars and rangefinder.
Yeah, rangefinding binoculars. There's a handful of them out there. There's one other company, one of the competitors of Vortex makes ones the same exact price. Very comparable in size, weight, clarity, acquisition time, and all that. So, but like the rangefinders that Vortex makes, they're red. It's a red display.
Yeah, it's the red display.
But very interesting. I ran across somebody, one of the guys at Cabela's, that was talking to a customer, and he couldn't see it.
Colorblind?
He was colorblind. so he had to go with the black. But 99.9% of the people,
Okay, so let me
people who
ask,
are not colorblind can see it.
So I have to ask this then. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he could see if it was green.
I don't know. That was going to be my next question.
Because I know, because
people Vortex, there you go. You're listening. Maybe have it that way if they can see green.
like True Glow does,
Right.
with their scopes, you can either do the red factor or you keep
green,
or you go to green.
Right.
And I went, that's a good question.
Yeah. Because the big issue is with all the other ones that are black, their backlit on the display is black.
Yep.
Low light, you can't see it.
We discussed that before, and that's one of the things about having that black lit display in low light.
Yeah.
Either early morning or late evening.
Right.
You run into problems.
Right on. So. But no, it's basically on
So,
numbers is
once again, first number
magnification. Yep.
Magnification, and the second number is
Size of the lens.
objective lens diameter.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's what they kind of call like an H-body style binocular. That's kind of what most everybody's kind of going to now. They just fit and feel good in the hands. And another thing that a lot of the companies doing now too is when you look at them, a lot of people, they get them like this and they put them right to their eyes, and they don't realize that the eye cups twist up. Twist up eye cups. That's for people who don't wear glasses. Twist down eye cups for people who do wear glasses.
Yes, to get them closer to your face.
Yep, that puts your eye the correct distance to the actual lens there in the back optic. You got your center diopter. We adjust these. We do that. Focus with your left eye, and then on this particular model here, it's got a snap ring that you can lock in place. But the right side, you can adjust your right eye and then lock it back in place. And when you do that, you run through that focal plane. Everything for both eyes is in focus.
That's right.
That's and a lot of companies are doing that now too. So it's what they've built into optics here in the last few years that's making optics just more versatile, a greater piece of gear that you can get on the field with and see. And if you don't already have these straps, bino harness.
That's pretty invaluable.
I'm going to throw it on here over top of my headset as we're talking here. Hope I don't knock it off, but basically, you're wearing them as I strip my headsets off my head.
You did.
This way, they're right here on you.
That's right.
In your work zone, up and down easy. You're bow hunting, they stay tight to you. You need to tighten up. That way they're not flopping on top of your into your string path. So
exactly. They're good to have. They're easy to have.
Yep.
Just a little, reach and you got them. You don't have to reach across the tree and grab them. So
right. Yep.
It's
you don't have to worry about dropping them.
You get a little scratch in the lens there, buddy.
Yeah, I got to send them back in. And that's something that's nice that Vortex will actually take care of that for me.
Well, that's a good deal.
So
there you go. Everything we needed to know about binoculars.
Yep, just the basics, It's, there's other things you can get into on it, the coatings and, what kind of gas they use to charge them with for the anti-fogging properties and, the polishing on the lens. It's just, then you start stepping up in price,
That's right. So there you go.
But that's basic, and the thing is, everybody's like, well, man, I just sit here and listen to you guys for 10 minutes on this. I knew that. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people out there that do not know. And there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to ask those questions.
Well, matter of fact, a couple of customers we've had looking at binoculars, they don't know the difference either. Like you said, they don't know. Right. Until you actually put two of them in front of them and tell them to, and especially when it brings in the light and you show them and they're like, wow.
Yeah, it's like, well, I want a compact pair, and the first thing I do is I pull out, I say, okay, what power are you using? First thing I ask them is, what do you use them for?
Yep.
Most people we talk to are deer hunting. And whether they're a rifle hunter or a bow hunter, if they're a bow hunter, well, I want something real small to fit in my pocket. Okay, but you really want them to be effective in low light, correct? And they're like, oh, well, absolutely. I said, okay, here's our compact. These are 10 by 28s. Here's a 10 by 42. Well, those are big. I go, yeah. Now look through them here in the store where there's plenty of light right now. And tell me, is one brighter than the other? And they well, of course it is. I go, okay, now. I said, let's reduce light down to first and last light. How critical is it going to be at that point?
That's right.
So
that's a very important thing that, unless, like some, they just want to go out and watch birds.
Sure.
Then it's fine, but you got to take into consideration the environment you're going to be looking in, whether it be rain, fog, heavy light, low light, stuff like that. Sometimes the smaller ones can get you by in some situations.
Right.
But you should really think about every situation. Or on a cloudy day, right? A cloudy day, a cloudy morning, and the sun coming up slow.
Mm-hmm. Well, I sold a pair to bird watchers this weekend. They were 15 by 56.
Okay.
And that's, they want to be able to see long distance, but they wanted it bright so they could see color, and that's, I was like, well, these are heavy. And it was a guy's birthday, and he's like, he says, I don't care. I said, well, fortunately, these come with tripod adapters, so you can put them on a tripod, So he said, well, that's cool, so you can use them either way.
That's right. He probably went right over and got a tripod.
Yeah, that or he had one. I don't know, but it's the way that you can make this stuff all work together.
And that's nice too. Especially do they have another adapter that mounts to your windshield?
They make an adapter like that goes like on a standard camera, like a 1/4 by 20 thread,
right?
Style adapter. Yeah, if you've got that adapter, like those right there. These here, you can put that adapter on this one here. This front piece right here unscrews. Of course, it's so tight right now because I've never had it off. But for those on live stream, this little center cover screws off and it's threaded, so you can put your tripod adapter on there, and then the piece of metal sticks down, so you can actually set them on tripod.
There you go.
So yeah, it works pretty good.
That's so cool. So cool.
Well, listen, we're running over here, so let's take our next break. We come back, we got some more good stuff to talk about. We'll be right back after this.
So what do you do when you've completely redefined the way bows are engineered? When you've reached the pinnacle and the band starts playing your victory song, you start a revolution out of thin air. Introducing the all-new PSE Carbon Air, engineered with true carbon technology to be the lightest high-performance bow in the world. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much-needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
Welcome back, everybody. Third segment of the show. Those of you on the podcast, I almost blew this thing up.
Yeah, you did.
That wouldn't have been good.
No, not at all.
We're talking in the break. Yesterday, there was an event somewhere in the United States. Do not remember where it was at. That was the speaker was Dr. James Kroll.
And you've met him.
I've actually worked with him three times.
Up at Turtle Lake
Camp. Yeah. I've actually been to the event that he was working at and worked side by side with him, broadcasting the event twice, and the third time I was on the live stream asking questions to him. So I've had 3 personal interactions with him, 1 via internet.
There you go.
But no, the whole thing was his take on CWD.
Okay.
From the scientific background.
All right.
Scientific background in quotes. And he started off, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
This is before the show started, I told you I was going to ask you a question.
Yes, you did. But you didn't tell me what the question was going to be.
Who had the first wildlife enclosure in the United States? Who had deer in an enclosure like a high fence operation, wild game farm?
Who had are we talking about for studying purposes or like
just in general, just the first one?
First one. I'm going to say somebody on the East Coast.
Yeah. It was on the east of the Mississippi.
I'll go with somebody in New York.
What would you say if I told you it's George Washington? He had the first wildlife enclosure.
Really?
Yes, he did. That's what Dr. James Kroll said. He said, strangely enough, he was the first person here in the United States to have captive animals.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
all right. So where did this go from there?
I don't know if they were for hunting pleasure or for viewing pleasure or for eating pleasure.
Right.
I don't know. He didn't elaborate on it, but he kind of led into that talking because, wildlife farms, enclosures, whatever you want to call them or deem them, they get pretty beat up with CWD.
Yes, they do.
So, but the whole talk on CWD, basically what he was saying was, the way it's been handled and continuing to be handled, well, maybe not continuing, but the way it is being handled up until recently is not the most effective way.
Really?
he said there's only been one instance documented where white-tailed deer contracted a disease and it was eradicated. And that was over in the West Coast, either Oregon or Washington. I can't remember what state it was. Black-tailed deer, a localized herd of black-tailed deer contracted hoof-mouth disease, and they actually eradicated it. Other than that, there's been no other disease that white-tailed deer get that has ever been eradicated.
Really?
And he says, it's next to impossible, number one. But the whole basis of it was why was CWD handled the way it was?
And handled as it is, yes.
Follow the money. How were the numbers manipulated in order to gain access to money to do different types of either research or eradication, and who benefited from those items?
Wow, imagine that. Follow the money train, right?
It was pretty powerful.
So, in a nutshell, he's kind of saying, if you follow the money, some things are done to gain more money,
right?
To bring money in.
And he said the money, I'm trying to remember, I think it was 2006 in Wisconsin, I believe, when they had the big outbreak in 2002-ish.
Okay.
Those 4 years, they did that big push to eradicate it. They spent millions. I can't remember. I listened to it last night. I fell asleep because I had earbuds in.
Right.
And I was laying in bed listening to it, and I got halfway through it from what I remember. So I got up this morning and watched it again. But from what I remember, specific numbers, go and watch it. We've got a link. I got a link on my page. We're going to put the hot link on our Facebook page. So just watch it, man. It's just it's good stuff. And we're talking. He alluded to something that had happened back in the 1940s. He said when global warming happened the first time. So you can tell where his thoughts are. He's like, people are manipulating numbers. He just said, scientists shouldn't be out to prove something. They should be out to disprove something. If that makes sense. Like, okay, no, I think this theory, I think CWD is being contracted this way. Okay, don't try to prove it, because you can manipulate the numbers to make anything the way you want it. Disprove that fact. That's what they're trying to do. He said that's the way he was taught in school. He said, we're not doing that anymore. It's very interesting. And it also kind of alluded to, we've talked to Lincoln Roan about antler point restrictions. He didn't get into antler point restrictions, but he's talking about proper management styles.
Yes. With
buck to doe ratios done correctly, actually keeps these diseases in check, because, and he explained the way of a deer. There's two ways a deer contracts a disease. It's either by repetition of something, of contacting like the prions from CWD over and over and over again, and they finally catch it.
Right.
Okay. Or, they're inundated with something. But he's talking about the actual numbers. When you put them in proximity with other deer in big numbers, these bigger groups are more likely to contract some type of disease.
Right.
So,
and it's very interesting you said that about following the money, because...
And I know I'm misquoting him probably on a lot of the stuff, but I'm telling you, that's the crux of what it was. And it's worth the hour sitting down and listening to the way he explained it in the charts that he showed. It's kind of hard to see the charts, but he explained it very well.
I'm sure you could get a hold of that.
And it made sense.
It's very interesting that you brought that up. And one of the big things that is talked about is money. Mm-hmm. A lot of money comes from the outdoors folks. Mm-hmm. But this things that we have in this state with the CWD and them not wanting to change APRs, mm-hmm. it kind of... In a way, I think I can see that. Mm-hmm. Well, if we make a change, we're going to lose money. Mm-hmm. Well, are you? But they're afraid to make a change because they think they might.
When you talk about losing money, the money has cost deer hunting across the United States dearly because of CWD. And he also talked about that. This is the big thing I took from the whole thing was, okay, so they took these numbers to manipulate them to be able to get to what they needed to do and get government contracts or government money, grants for research, this, that, and the other, to be able to do this thing. Well, once you start putting all this together and spinning things and building it up to be this big, ugly monster that it's not, all of a sudden, what are we doing? We're giving information out to the antis.
Yeah.
And they start scaring people. Oh, you don't want to hunt deer.
CWD's
exploding over in Wisconsin right now.
Right.
So, you're gonna get that because they said there's been no documented proof ever of a human contracting CWD from eating venison. Although there was 3 different publications who actually put it out and said that people had contracted. It's just false.
Fake news?
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine that. Right?
Yeah, he did.
Well,
bring that
that's
up,
very
too.
interesting. We'll have to put that link up, and then I'll have to listen to it. Hopefully, I can get to it this week while I'm at work. I can just put on the headphones and.
It's excellent. It's excellent. You know,
It's an interesting take when you look at it like that, and
the bigger thing for me was the way the numbers were being crunched.
Right.
And they were comparing Wisconsin to Illinois, but the difference in the topography, because, you know, northern Illinois butts right up. You got Chicago up there.
right.
And a couple other big towns. They're talking about it's all been developed. Southern Wisconsin is not developed.
Right.
You know, so you comparing apples and oranges.
Yes.
You can't do that. Even though that proximity is so close, it drops off so fast.
Right. Because of how the topography of the land is.
Mm-hmm. So
Absolutely. I agree.
But very interesting. He talked a little bit about EHD, and they're actually working on, he called it artificial water for deer. And what he meant by that was deer, they're drinking out of mud holes.
Right.
Okay. Where do they contract EHD? From around the mud holes.
Yep,
Because that's where the midge fly is.
Yep.
Okay. So he said if we can get them out of those, keep them away from those areas when EHD is going to flourish,
Which is right now.
then and have artificial watering, basically watering stations, places where there's no mud where these midge flies,
They can get fresh water.
yeah, where these midge flies come out of, you know, the larvae come out of and hatch into the actual bug. Then he said, you know, maybe we can keep it under control a little bit.
Wow. That would be something. I don't know how you'd do it.
Now,
But
is that thinking out of the box or what?
that's highly out of the box.
You know, it's just somebody out there trying to do something good.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, we'll have to stay up on that. Maybe at some point we can talk to him about it. I know there's talk about him being back up at that camp again this year doing another deer necropsy.
Oh, in February.
Yeah.
Or January, whenever they do
Yeah,
that.
so I know a couple of us have, if they do it, have been talking about going back. We've been, you know, asked if we wanted to be a part of that. So that's something I definitely, if that happens,
You'll be up there.
I'm going to do whatever I got to do to be there.
There you go. He's a very interesting guy. Very knowledgeable.
You know, and he's the guy that kind of turned my whole thinking around just by sitting and watching what they were doing and him explaining why the things that they were doing and the results meant what they meant. And it made sense. It made sense.
Right.
This is why this happens. This is why this doesn't happen. This is happening. We don't know why, but it's happening.
Yep.
And it's just it's so nice to be able to sit there and actually watch science happen right in front of you
That's awesome.
and have somebody explain it to you, you know.
That's cool.
So, you know, that's how we learn. And that changed my whole thinking on deer hunting, you know, and deer management.
Learning through education.
Yeah, exactly. Education. Yeah.
Education. Educating the hunter.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's step outside. We'll take our last break, and we'll wrap up the show tonight. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
I shoot PSE because I like one pin to 40 yards.
I shoot PSE for the perfect combination of feel and performance.
I shoot PSE because you can shoot lighter poundage and increase arrow speed.
I shoot PSE for the fastest bows on the planet. I shoot PSE because my livelihood depends on my bow.
I shoot PSE because better engineering makes a better bow.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE. I shoot PSE.
Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much-needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
Last segment of the show. Boy, we got a few of the guys fired up there on the live stream, didn't we, in the break?
It's always good to do that.
Talking about having we need to have a few more ladies that listen to the podcast actually join the live stream as well. Speaking of that, next week, we got confirmation yet?
Hold on, let me check for confirmation.
He's checking. He's checking his text right now.
Let me see. She says that'll work.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna pencil that in, and Mara Doherty is going to join us next week on the show on the live.
And we're going to try something new next week.
Yeah, so if we can get her on the show, we will try something new. We're not going to say what it is,
it's
but
going to be a surprise for everybody.
But yeah, she we were going to have her on tonight, but she was traveling back actually from Michigan, I believe.
Yes, she was doing a little fishing.
Yeah, they come up.
She was coaching. Maybe she was coaching.
I think she was running her cell phone. I'm assuming she was videotaping instead of texting.
I don't know. Maybe she was showing
Cody how to fish?
Cody how to fish.
Okay. Yeah, they were up here this week on Lake St. Clair or Lake Erie.
I'm not sure to be exact.
They were somewhere here in Michigan. They come up out of the gar hole.
Yeah, they made a trip out of the gar hole.
So, yeah, we're going to have her on. And actually, I've been talking, this has been a couple months back now, and I'm just waiting for the right time to be able to talk to a female writer in the outdoors.
Oh, yeah, you were mentioning something about that.
Yes, she writes children's books.
Of outdoors?
About the outdoors,
yes. Good to get her on.
And, I've got I'm connected personally through a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
And we've emailed each other back a couple of times, but we're going to get her on the show one week and talk about that. So we are going to start working a few ladies into the show here.
And speaking of shows, I do believe 2 weeks from yesterday, we're going to be at Bowfest.
Absolutely. Bowfest is coming up. Jim Beasley over at Spot Shooter Archery. Bowfest, that's
August 26th.
6th?
Yep.
That is the 26th?
Yes, sir.
Check your calendar.
Last Saturday in August.
I always think it's the 27th. Okay, 26th.
26th, Saturday.
Bring your wife, bring your kids.
Bring your dog.
Bring everybody over. Bring your bow. Have it blessed.
Yeah, bring your dog. Everybody else brings their dogs to everything else.
Yeah, they do. We've seen a lot of that here lately.
Some stores I admittedly say that's okay, but some stores I kind of wonder.
We had this conversation at Cabela's last weekend.
With Cabela's being an outdoor store, I can kind of see it.
They allow dogs in the door.
I'm not so sure that I'd allow them in now. If it's a
Send
service,
all emails.
If it's a service pet, I understand.
To Dan DeFaw.
But if it's your dog because, I don't know, and you take it into a grocery store,
right,
or a restaurant, not sure I'd go there. But it's my own honest opinion.
Okay, you're entitled to your opinion.
That's right. Like Cabela's, I understand.
I was down at Dundee yesterday, and there was a lady who had two little, I don't know what they look like a feist, like a treeing feist style dog, and she had them in the cart, and they're both perked up on the top. She's pushing them around the store. I saw a Great Dane in the store here a while back as well. They bring them into Cabela's all the time. One thing I haven't seen though, a couple observations on that is I've never seen a dog in Cabela's or any other store that I've been in that they've been in make a mess. Have you?
No.
You never see them drop anything on the floor or make a puddle?
Nope.
Okay. Now, the other thing, I've never seen them fight with another dog or a customer.
Ooh, well.
Now in a dog food store, because you take your dog.
Yeah, that's a different story because
they're fighting over food,
right?
So
I did see a couple times at Cabela's where you could tell the dogs got too close to each other. Mm-hmm. The barking started, and I was walking by the cash registers, I think, and one dog went one way and the other dog went the other way, and then all of a sudden the owner was trying to grab the dog back from going the
opposite direction.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I haven't seen an all-out fight. I've heard it sound pretty close where they start barking at each other.
Right.
So
okay, but yeah, that's. I would think that you would have to have the utmost confidence in taking your dog on a leash into a store and trusting it to not bite somebody.
Not bite somebody, not start marking its territory. Or,
hiking a leg up on something or dropping a present on the floor.
Exactly.
So,
no, but in Cabela's, it's an outdoor store. I can understand it.
Right on. Okay. So. Yeah, I know. You made mention of that last week. So
it just bugged me.
You wanted to talk about it tonight.
Right, because it happened in a grocery store, and they put the dog right there in the top of the cart, and that's
where the seat is?
Where you put your fruits, vegetables, bread.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Okay.
Imagine your celery or something, or your whatever you bought sitting there, and all that wonderful little dog hair went.
Well, you got the hand wipes. You can wipe everything down when you go in now.
Well, okay, so you're going to wipe out your whole cart. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying.
Maybe they need a cart wash.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yes,
here.
you are. So's Jason here. Look at this. Jason says only a little over 3 months before Michigan kicks Ohio State Buckeyes.
Oh, okay. So he wants to bring that up next week to Mara when you get her on the show.
Yeah, you have to ask that question, Jason, next week. If we get Mara on the show here, you can ask that question. Because Mike's an Alabama fan.
That's right, baby. Roll Tide. Everybody knows that, though. Y'all can be haters all you want. But no, that's about all I got this week. Is anything else we missing we were going to talk about?
Jason Sacco has a comment for us.
Okay.
Cabela's here in Buda, Texas, has both indoor and outdoor kennels. I used to take my rat there all the time and check him in. He was such a baby and loved all the ladies, giving him attention. He liked riding in a car up to Buda and back home.
You know, I don't know if Dundee does. Jason, if you're still right there handy, is the Buda store is that a destination store, or is that what they call it?
It's not a destination, or is it the 88,000 square foot?
What do they call those now?
I'm trying to think, and I can't. It's not at the top of my head.
It's escaping me. But anyway, but I know we've got RV parking, and they've actually got a dump station at the one in Dundee, and I do think they've got.
I don't know.
Out back, I think they do have a kennel.
I wonder if the one I'll have to drive around the parking lot, because I really never drove around the parking lot at the one in Chesterfield.
Yeah.
I just drove around the side, and I was like, I wonder what's on the other side now that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I'll have to look.
Saginaw doesn't. It's
a huge place, he says.
Okay. I forget what they call that size store.
Right.
But anyway.
Nope, that's all I got for this week, and you know what? With this weather being the way it is, I think I'm going to get out and shoot some more this week.
I need to. I haven't shot this week. Every day that I've got up to get out and go shoot, something has stopped me dead in my tracks. Whether it be family or work-related or every single morning. I haven't rode my bike this week either. That's something else I've got to get back on. And actually, being 8 o'clock, I probably won't make it tonight. So,
what, get on your bike?
Yeah, or shoot. Got to edit the show. I've got to be to work early tomorrow. So.
Oh, you got to be early tomorrow?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So, but that's all we got for you guys this week. Next week, hope we'll have Mara on. We'll be talking about her setup. She's been talking a little bit about her setup for her field, what they've done this year and how it's changed, where she's going to deer hunt. And also, we get her on. We're going to talk about something else that she's been working on for quite a while. That's going to come to fruition. So. Got some good stuff to talk about with her and see what they've been up to this summer as far as fishing. So,
and Jason Radecki, 2 comments. Mm-hmm. Jason Sacco says Saginaw is just an outpost. Yes, that's an outpost. Then they have destination stores, which is Dundee. Then there's the in-between store, which is
what do they call them?
And Jason Radecki's comment. And you thought you were eating wild game at the restaurant upstairs at Dundee.
Oh no, there's no wild game up there. It's all processed. Yeah, I get the pulled pork when I go. That's what I eat. Just because I don't get a lot of pulled pork around this area. It's okay. It's pulled pork.
Right. So there you go.
It's not like Grandmama used to make, where your tongue would jump up and slap the top of your mouth.
Gotta like that.
All right. I tell you what, guys, that'll do it for us this week. We've had a lot of fun playing at the stores here, but you know what? It's time to get out and do some getting ready for season. One thing we didn't talk about was food plot stuff.
No.
Save that for next week?
We can talk next week.
All right. Yeah, we got some stuff on food plots with, and speaking of killer food plots right there popping up in the monitor. We got some stuff on that's coming up that we want to talk about as well. So we're going to wrap up the show. And as always, as we say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal. This episode of the Up North Journal podcast was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls, and
Badass Slingshots.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.